A humble house cat accomplishes a remarkable act, rescuing all the puppies from a dangerous neighbor's dog. But when the owners discover the true reason behind her courage, they are left in complete awe. Mia wasn't just any cat. Her soft, caramel-colored coat and vibrant green eyes made her impossible to miss. But it wasn't just her looks that set her apart. Mia possessed a maternal instinct that went far beyond that of a normal cat. The Anderson family, Elena, Marco, and their young daughter Ariana, took in Mia when she was just a tiny kitten. They found her trembling in fear and cold, curled up in a cardboard box by a grocery store. Ariana, only 8 years old at the time, instantly fell in love with the little kitten and begged her parents to let her keep her. The first few weeks in her new home were difficult for Mia. She hid under the bed, only emerging at night to eat. But Ariana was incredibly patient, spending hours lying next to the bed, softly encouraging Mia to come out. Slowly, Mia started to feel safe and began to trust the family who had opened their hearts to her. As Mia grew older, her personality flourished, revealing her to be a remarkably smart and curious cat. She quickly learned to unlatch doors, flip light switches, and even bring Ariana's school backpack in the mornings. But beyond her talents, Mia's compassion for other creatures was truly extraordinary. One day, when Ariana came home with an injured bird, Mia immediately took on the role of its protector. She spent countless hours next to the bird's box, guarding it with care and even trying to feed it. Thanks to Mia's tender care, the bird recovered and was able to fly again. One stormy day, a nest of baby squirrels fell into the Andersons' yard. Without hesitation, Mia sprinted into the pouring rain and gently carried each squirrel to the safety of the porch. She kept them warm and secure throughout the night, waiting for the rain to end so their mother could return. Mia soon became a beloved figure in the neighborhood. People often stopped by the Andersons' home to admire this incredible cat. The local children adored her, and it was clear the feeling was mutual. One day, Elena noticed something unusual about Mia. The cat spent long hours perched by the window, staring out into the distance with a sense of sadness. Her appetite seemed to fade, and she became more withdrawn. Worried, the Andersons took Mia to the vet, hoping to understand what was happening. The vet soon uncovered the truth. Mia was expecting kittens. The revelation overwhelmed the family with a mix of emotions. Ariana was excited at the thought of new kittens. Elena was anxious about Mia's health, and Marco was already planning how they would care for the new arrivals. The following week was filled with preparations. Ariana made a soft bed from old blankets and cushions. Marco gathered special food for pregnant cats, and Elena kept a close eye on Mia, ensuring she was comfortable. Finally, the day arrived. Mia retreated to a quiet corner of the shed to give birth, clearly signaling she didn't want anyone's help. The family waited anxiously, hearing the occasional soft purrs drifting from the shed. Hours passed before Mia finally emerged, looking exhausted but graceful. However, to the Andersons' shock, there were no kittens following her. Marco gently peeked into the place Mia had carefully prepared, and his heart sank when he saw 3 tiny, stillborn kittens lying motionless. The vet, who was called in immediately, reassured the Andersons that such tragedies were not uncommon, especially with young cats. Mia was heartbroken. She refused to leave her nest, endlessly licking and trying to warm her stillborn kittens. The Andersons didn't know how to ease their beloved pet's grief. They tried distracting her with toys and treats, but Mia showed no interest. A week went by, and finally, Mia came out of her hiding place. But she was no longer the same vibrant cat she once was. She seemed drained, quiet, and distant. For hours, she would sit by the window, staring off into nothingness. Ariana tried to coax her into play, but nothing worked. Elena and Marco grew more and more concerned about Mia's well-being. They consulted the vet again, desperate for advice on how to help their cat overcome her deep sadness. Ariana even began speaking softly to Mia, hoping that her gentle voice might offer some comfort to the grieving cat. Then, on a blistering summer day, everything changed. While playing in the yard, Ariana heard an unusual sound coming from beyond the fence. Curiosity led her closer, and what she saw left her in stunned silence. Mia, with great care, was carrying a tiny, whimpering black puppy in her mouth. Ariana called out for her parents, and soon the entire Anderson family was gathered, watching in disbelief as Mia gently laid the puppy down on the grass, nuzzling it as if it were her own kitten. The family was at a loss. Where had the puppy come from? What should they do next? Marco suggested they bring the puppy inside, contact animal services, or take it to a shelter. But Elena hesitated. Watching the way Mia lovingly cared for the tiny creature, she couldn't bring herself to separate them. As the adults debated what to do, Ariana hurried inside to fetch an old basket and a soft blanket. She carefully placed the tiny puppy inside, and without hesitation, Mia hopped in beside him, curling up protectively around the little creature. Elena and Marco watched, their hearts swelling at the sight of such tenderness. Moved by the bond between Mia and the pup, they decided to let the puppy stay for the time being. The next few days were filled with anticipation and activity. The Andersons put up flyers all around the neighborhood, hoping to find the puppy's owner, but no one came forward. Meanwhile, Mia's care for her new charge was nothing short of extraordinary. She stayed close to him, licking him gently and using her own body to keep him warm. Ariana was astonished when she realized that Mia had started nursing the puppy. Despite being from different species, Mia's milk was nourishing the pup just as if he were her own. The family vet, when consulted, was equally stunned. While such occurrences were rare, the vet explained that it was indeed possible. Mia continued to feed the puppy every 2 hours, even waking up in the middle of the night to tend to him, showing the full extent of her maternal instinct. Then, on the third morning after the first pup arrived, Mia disappeared once more. The Andersons didn't think much of it, assuming she had simply gone on one of her usual walks. But when she returned, she was carrying another puppy in her mouth. This one was slightly bigger than the first, but it had the same dark fur. Mia gently placed the second puppy next to the first in the basket and resumed her nurturing care with the same tender touch. The Andersons were completely mystified. Where was Mia finding all these puppies, and what was driving her to bring them home? Marco started to think that perhaps a nearby dog had recently given birth but wasn't taking care of her pups for some reason. Elena considered asking the neighbors if any dogs had recently had puppies, but before they could make any inquiries, Mia brought in a third puppy, then a fourth, and finally a fifth. Sorry for the interruption. Before we continue with the story, I kindly ask you to like the video and subscribe to this channel. It is very important for us. Thank you very much. By the end of the week, the Anderson home had transformed into a haven for 5 tiny, dark-furred puppies, all under Mia's watchful care. Mia's resourcefulness in caring for her unusual family was remarkable, but despite her best efforts to nurse them all, her milk wasn't enough to fully sustain the growing pups. Realizing this, Ariana began feeding the puppies a specially prepared formula from a bottle. It seemed as if Mia understood the need for extra nourishment, and she patiently waited as Ariana fed each of them. After each feeding, Mia would gently lick their faces, as though completing the nurturing process herself. News of Mia's extraordinary foster parenting spread quickly throughout the neighborhood. People were fascinated by this miraculous display of nature. Some admired Mia, calling her a true hero, while others grew suspicious. Mrs. Martini, an elderly woman who lived across the street, claimed to have seen Mia sneaking around at night with a strange look on her face. She began to spread rumors, suggesting that the cat was stealing puppies from less fortunate dogs. On the other hand, Mr. Moretti, the friendly baker from the local shop, was utterly charmed by Mia's devotion. Every day he brought fresh bread to the Andersons and their puppies, convinced that such an extraordinary family deserved a special treat. Meanwhile, children from nearby homes eagerly asked to visit and see this unusual family. Ariana proudly shared stories about how wonderfully Mia cared for the puppies, telling them about each little one as if they were her own siblings. However, not everything was as peaceful as it seemed. The responsibility of caring for 5 puppies and a cat quickly overwhelmed the Andersons. The cost of food and veterinary bills kept rising, and their home was constantly filled with chaos. Tensions began to rise between Marco and Elena as they disagreed on what to do next. The stress wasn't confined to the Anderson household. It began to ripple throughout the neighborhood as well. Some neighbors started suggesting that animal control might need to step in, fearing that Mia could be stealing puppies from other dogs. Marco began to feel like they were under constant scrutiny. From their backyard, he could see people gossiping and pointing at their windows. On one occasion, he even noticed a man in a car taking photos of their house. Elena, nearing emotional exhaustion, struggled to balance her love for Mia and the puppies with the overwhelming pressure from the neighbors. The constant judgment began to weigh heavily on her, and she found herself growing anxious about leaving the house, unable to shake the feeling of disapproving stares. Ariana, seeing the toll it was taking on her mother, decided to take matters into her own hands. She set out to find the source of the puppies, determined to uncover the mystery of where Mia was finding them. The young girl spent hours by the window, watching Mia, hoping to catch her in the act. Meanwhile, Mia remained blissfully unaware of the growing turmoil. She continued to care for her pups with gentle affection, playing with them and showing off her natural instincts. It was amazing to watch as the puppies began to mimic Mia's movements, even trying to groom themselves like their feline mother. One evening, when the tension in the air had reached its peak, a knock echoed on the Andersons' door. Standing at the threshold was a law enforcement officer, accompanied by a few concerned neighbors. He stated that he needed to talk about Mia and the puppies. The Andersons, hearts racing with fear and uncertainty, reluctantly invited him inside, unsure of what this unexpected visit might lead to. Yet, despite the growing anxiety, they made a silent vow to stand by Mia and her remarkable little family to the very end. As the officer stepped into the living room, his eyes fell upon Mia, resting comfortably in a large basket surrounded by 5 tiny puppies. Even the officer, who was usually all business, couldn't hide his surprise at the sight. He examined Mia and the puppies closely, his curiosity piqued, and asked the Andersons about their story. The family shared everything they knew, recounting Mia's brave, one-by-one rescue of each of her puppies. At that moment, Ariana, who had been quiet up until then, stepped forward. She spoke up about her observations of Mia, noting how the cat often wandered toward the abandoned house on the outskirts of town. The officer, intrigued by this new information, decided to follow the lead. He and Marco set off toward the old house, leaving Elena and Ariana behind to tend to Mia and her puppies. When they returned about an hour later, their faces were grim, their expressions heavy with something troubling. They had found a sickly stray mother dog in the neglected house, recently given birth but far too weak and ill to care for her pups. Everything suddenly made sense. Mia, guided by her natural maternal instincts, wasn't taking the puppies but saving them from certain death. She had been carefully bringing them home one by one, knowing it would be too difficult to carry them all at once. News of Mia's heroic act in saving the orphaned puppies spread like wildfire through the town, softening the hearts of everyone who heard it. The townspeople's attitudes toward the Andersons shifted dramatically, and Mia's status transformed from an ordinary cat to a beloved local hero. People everywhere sought ways to help. The compassionate local vet offered to treat the mother dog for free, while Mia continued to lovingly care for her puppies. The Andersons stood in awe, watching their cherished cat nurture her foster pups with the utmost tenderness. As Mia's incredible story went viral online, it captured the hearts of many. People from all over praised her for her compassion and selflessness. Meanwhile, the mother dog recovered and prepared to reunite with her puppies. Everyone eagerly awaited Mia's response, but the wise cat amazed them all. She allowed the biological mother to bond with her pups, assuming the role of a gentle guardian who remained close by, offering quiet support. This story didn't just change Mia's life or the fate of the puppies, it deeply affected the entire community. People began treating each other with more kindness, and neighbors extended help to one another more often. The local animal shelter experienced a surge in adoptions, with many cats finding new homes. Mia became a symbol of how love and nurturing instincts can emerge in the most surprising of circumstances. I really enjoyed the story. It's heartwarming and shows how compassion can make a huge difference, even in the most unexpected places. I would absolutely have let Mia keep the puppies. She clearly had the best intentions and the love in her heart to care for them. As for defending her against the neighbor's accusations, definitely. People often misjudge situations without knowing the full story, and Mia was just acting out of pure love and instinct. If I were in the story, I'd have done the same. Protect and support her. Thanks for sharing such a moving story. And I love the message at the end. Kindness really can work miracles. Looking forward to the next one.